In this video, I'm going to tell you what kind of technology could be bringing down those planes. I'm also going to update you on some other hot issues you've been mentioning in the comments. And I think we should start today's video with a story many of you have asked about in my last few videos. I'm of course talking about the Fort Knox mystery. More specifically, why haven't we heard anything else about Fort Knox recently? Well, the first thing you need to know is that Elon Musk talked about it only a few days ago.
Fort Knox.
Oh, Fort Knox. Oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Well, that's up to the president, of course. But I think it would be, I think it would be awesome to live stream Fort Knox. You know, I mean, that would be really fun. And after all, it is actually the gold of the American people. So the American people should, it seems to me, have a right to see their gold. You know, hopefully it looks really cool. You know, you open the doors, like, is it there? Like, is that really gold? Let's check. You know, so maybe it'll be really interesting. I'm all for it. The president says he's interested in doing it, so hopefully that happens.
As you just saw, he seems kind of vague on this. But then again, he was also vague about those Doge checks during this rally.
I'm sure I'm not the only one who's wondering, but we know that Doge has found quite a bit of money, and we would like to see some of that returned to the American people. Do you have any information on when Doge checks would be written or sent out?
Sure. Well, I guess we need to be successful at scale. We've made a lot of progress, but there's still a tremendous amount of work to do. Effectively, as government spending is made more efficient and spending is reduced, the tax by inflation is reduced. So one way or another, you will effectively be better off if resources in the United States are not wasted. And it's somewhat up to the Congress and maybe the president to as to whether specific checks are cut.
Look, I already told you, unless the president reins in these black sheep in the GOP, Congress is never going to send us any checks. As for the Fort Knox live stream, I have my own theory as to why they have gone silent on this one. And the answer is kind of obvious. The gold is gone, or at least a large chunk of it is missing, and they know it. Now, you might be wondering if this is true, why won't our president just tell us? After all, he's been telling us about other such criminal activities. Well, it's not that simple, folks. I'm sure some of you have heard that the president is moving the country to a no income tax, all tariff policy.
As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens. Does that make sense, right? Century later, in the face of unrelenting economic warfare, the United States can no longer continue with a policy of unilateral economic surrender. We cannot pay the deficits of Canada, Mexico, and so many other countries. We used to do it. We can't do it anymore. We take care of countries all over the world. We pay for their military. We pay for everything they have to pay. And then when you want to cut back a little bit, they get upset that you're not taking care of them any longer. But we have to take care of our people, and we're going to take care of our people first. And I'm sorry to say that.
Even though this policy could benefit Americans in the long term, it has caused panic in the stock market, and people are talking about a possible recession.
Dow is projected in those market futures to fall about 1,200 points upon opening, the NASDAQ dropping almost 4%. Now, these are futures. We'll know for sure once we get to that opening bell.
Now, imagine at a time like this, Donald Trump tells us that someone has stolen hundreds of billions of dollars worth of gold from us. What do you think's going to happen? It would be catastrophic and could cause a depression, and I think we've had enough of that. So if the gold is missing, I would love to know, but I also completely understand why the president might be keeping us out of the loop for now. And the reason why I kind of believe this theory is because I remember when Donald Trump first talked about Fort Knox.
And I'm going to do something. I'm actually going on this one. You know, all my life I've heard about Fort Knox. That's where the gold is kept, right? I heard Fort Knox, oh. But, you know, we're getting a little bit shaky. We're getting the yips on this stuff. Like, I want to find out. So we're going to open up the doors. I'm going to see if we have gold there. We want to find out, did anybody steal the gold in Fort Knox? It's a pretty amazing place, but I'm going to actually go. We're going to open the doors. We're going to inspect Fort Knox. We want to make sure that we actually have, 400 tons of gold or whatever the hell it is. It's a lot of gold. I don't want to open it and the cupboards are bare. Could happen.
People were immediately spooked, and at the time, our Treasury Secretary instantly went on a show and assured everyone the gold was there.
There was a report September 30th, 2024. All the gold is there. Any U.S. senator who wants to come and visit it can arrange a visit through our office.
It seemed rather bizarre because his boss was saying something else, and yet now it makes sense. You see, Scott Bessent could very well have been trying to stop a financial disaster. After all, we know the Fed isn't going to do that. Moving on, let's talk about all those airplanes that keep crashing for one reason or another.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Our street's probably going to be blocked.
Maybe.
Now look, let me once again clarify something. The main reasons behind these scary aviation disasters are mostly faulty planes and pilot errors. Now, the government can't just stop every single pilot from making mistakes, but they can surely force companies like Boeing from putting out planes that just are not safe for the skies.
A new whistleblower report reveals Boeing allegedly hid faulty plane parts from federal regulators. Mohawk claims some of the defective parts, marked with a red tag or red paint, were installed in new planes, while others were completely lost.
However, every now and then we have a crash that just doesn't make sense. Well, let me tell you what kind of technology could be causing this. Have any of you heard of Naval Communications Station Harold E. Holt? If you haven't, don't be surprised, because it isn't even located on U.S. land. In fact, it's on the other side of the world, all the way over in Australia. Now, I'm not going to lie, there isn't a lot of public information on this particular facility. However, here are some facts. It was established in 1968, and ever since then, it's been the most powerful transmission center in the Southern Hemisphere. Now, in addition to the rather interesting formation of its towers, it also emits a very unique and powerful frequency of 19.8 kilohertz. And here's the purpose of this facility, according to the people who work there.
This is a VLF transmitter, and we broadcast signals throughout the area to Australian and US submarines.
And here's why they chose this particular frequency.
So VLF is effectively a ground wave, and it travels across the surface of the Earth, and it does actually penetrate the water because of how low frequency it is and how powerful the signals.
So basically, they say it's used to communicate with submarines in that region. But the reason why I'm talking about it is simple. In 2008, in a span of only a couple of months, 2 airplanes nearly went down due to the same issue while flying over this station. The first incident occurred on the 7th of October when Qantas Flight 72 suddenly nosedived with 315 people on board. Most of these people suffered injuries and many of them were serious. And it was nothing short of a miracle that the plane didn't just crash. The second incident took place on the 27th of December with Qantas Flight 71, and once again, the plane had navigation issues. Luckily, this one was less serious. Now, of course, the investigators quickly called any relation to the naval station a conspiracy theory, but that's kind of expected since we have so much control over Australia that they can't really reveal anything without our permission. But what interests me is that this station is run by Raytheon, and we've already heard what they're doing in Antarctica.
I was selected to go down to the South Pole Station in Antarctica for an entire year by Raytheon Polar Services as an employee of a third-party contractor for the National Science Foundation. I function in a dual-role capacity as a tradesman and a firefighter. My responsibilities required me to be more informed than most of my crew and offered me complete access to the facilities. I have provided documentation that proves that the 5,160, what they call DOMs, that are embedded in the ice can actually transmit at 2,047 volts each. That gives us a long list of things to consider. It is effectively a multifaceted directed energy weapons platform The season that I was there, 2010 to 2011, we converted from construction to operations and maintenance in both the elevated station and the detector array. Unfortunately, when they first fired it up, that was when we had the earthquakes in Christchurch, New Zealand. There was 2 incidental shots before they were able to target it correctly. This is an earthquake generating device as well. This is the weapons of war that we have to deal with now and what Raytheon's hiding.
So as far as I can see, this might have been a test and it was successful. So after 2008, the people running that facility just shut down the system that can quite literally pluck planes out of the sky. Now, moving on, I want to talk about Luigi Mangione because it looks like Pam Bondi wants him dead.
Luigi Mangione's attorney, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, has put out a statement. This comes after U.S. Attorney General Pamela Bondi directed federal prosecutors to go ahead and seek the death penalty against Luigi Mangione for his federal charges if he's convicted. So what she said, she put this out just a few minutes ago, saying the Justice Department has moved from the dysfunctional to the barbaric. She also went on to say, Mangione, quote, is caught in a high-stakes game of tug-of-war between state and federal prosecutors, except the trophy is a young man's life, end quote.
Now, you can say that he deserves it since he did assassinate a human being. However, my question is simple. In a country where we allow human traffickers and far worse criminals to just live out their days in prisons, why do they want this young man to die? Well, some people still believe that he's just a fall guy, and now that the job is done, they want to silence him.
We were roommates for about 6 months at Surf Break Co-Living, and the entire time that he lived at Surf Break, he was a great community member. He kind of followed by that somebody who would assassinate somebody is completely incompatible with the person that I lived with, the person that I cooked meals with, the person that, was part of book club and other activities with.
However, I think the Attorney General might also be worried about copycats, since we now know some people have tried to end Elon Musk's life.
Yeah, I think I probably need to work out and not get assassinated or something, A homicidal maniac will try to kill you is proportionate to how many homicidal maniacs hear your name. Okay. So they hear my name a lot. I'm like, okay, I'm on the list,
And then there's the case where a psychopath killed an innocent Walgreens employee because he was mad at large pharmacies.
A deadly pharmacy shooting with a shocking motive. Police in Central California say the shooter was angry with big pharmacies and drove out of his way to find one to open fire on.
Before turning his weapon on a store worker, Eric Velasquez, who heroically called 911 as he lay dying on the floor of the store.
Throughout the hearing, Fernandez was shaking his arms and legs and at one point grinning after his public defender entered a not guilty plea.
How does that even make sense? I would certainly support capital punishment for sickos like this one, but with Luigi, I don't think many people, even in Donald Trump's camp, support such harsh punishment. So I'd like to know what you guys think about this Luigi situation and the Fort Knox mystery. Also, do you think they're just using that base to communicate with submarines, or are they using it for something more nefarious? Feel free to share your thoughts with everyone in the comments down below. I will see you on the next video.